Good evening, everybody. Happy Monday, beginning of a gorgeous week. I hope you guys are all enjoying this wonderful fall weather here in Washington State. As you can tell, I'm coming to you from a dark location. We're dealing with lighting, and of course the lighting's never good. But that's okay. It's actually perfect for the message tonight. You know, today as I was driving, I was thinking about tonight's message, and I usually spend all week working on the messages, and I had it all set. But today's interesting because if you've driven around the state of Washington, trees are down everywhere. Power lines are down. I mean, we've been being just, our state has been beaten and plummeted by wind, rain, torrential downpours, caused flooding, trees down, power down, all kinds of things. And it's interesting when you think about storms raging, right? When I look at the Bible and I think of storms raging, I remember that one story where Jesus is on the boat and they're going across the sea, and it's a raging storm and it's crazy, and they go to wake him up and be like, "Hey, boss, everything, waves are coming over. We're going to drown. We're all going to die." And Jesus just sits up and he's like, "What's wrong with you people?" Right? And then he just tells everything to chill out and calm down, and the waves stopped and everything calmed down. And there's a whole great message in that. And part of my message this week was about that. But then I started to think back how many people in the Bible have gone through storms and how many people have weathered storms. And there's a lot of people who have weathered storms. And that's where my theme was going for this week, to be honest with you. But it took a different turn, okay? As it always does. And here's the turn it took. As you've driven down the streets here in our state, or wherever you're at watching this, you guys know what it's like when the wind blows and trees are coming down on power lines, and the tree limbs are everywhere, right? Those tree limbs that have broken off the trees, those tree limbs were weak. They were old. They were brittle. Some of them might have been even young and fresh, but just not strong enough to weather the storm. Now, pruning back our tree would help that. I've got a big tree in the backyard, and one of the things about this tree, it drops big branches every year. But I watch it. I pay attention each year to that tree, and I look at the branches and I think, that branch is going to come down on top of the house. I need to be thinking about this in advance. I need to be pruning back my branches to make sure that they don't fall down on my house, fall down on my car. Is that a weak tree limb? You don't wait until it crashes on your car to go, "Oh yeah, I got a weak tree limb." No, that's not how you do it. You got to be proactive. We got to be proactive in our life. So in your life, you guys go through storms just like I do. We all go through them on a daily, weekly basis. Some of us, it drives us into Great Depression. I'll put my hand up. I've dealt with depression my whole life. Some of us, it drives us to work even harder. Some people, it's scary. When the storms come, they freak out, and we all want to run to the house and be like, Mom, help, right? But storms are a great chance for us to grow. Now, the tree limbs have been ripped off. The weak ones have fallen away. The old decayed branches in our life, they're not going to make the storm. They're not going to weather it. But what's left? Well, it's a leaner and a tougher tree. Think of that example in your life. What limbs do you have that you need to be aware of that possibly are weak, that you need to cut off? I know, amputation, right? That's a big, strong word. But let's think about that for a second. If you don't amputate certain body parts after they have gone to a certain point of decay, that gangrene can literally kill you. So there comes a point where even with modern medicine, you see people that climb mountains, and I climb mountains for literally pleasure, but as a person who goes out and climbs mountains on a weekly basis, my last biggest one was Mount St Helens, beautiful volcano. And you don't take and climb these mountains if you think your leg's gonna give, or if you hope your leg doesn't give. You gotta be prepared. You got to be working out in advance preparation. You need to study the mountain, study the terrain, study the weather patterns that have been coming through at that specific summit day in the historical records to see how the weather possibly could be and what's the worst weather that happens at that time of year, so you can kind of prepare for it. These are things you need to be thinking about as a mountaineer. Well, life's the same way. You see, when you go and get an injury up on top of a mountain like Mount Everest, and you get frostbite up on Mount Rainier, if you don't take care of the frostbite on your toe, if you let it go, well, they might have to amputate the toe, and if they didn't do enough of it, they might have to take off the foot. And the foot, usually then you got to lose part of your leg, and then it keeps coming up until eventually it takes you out. So it's better the doctors will quickly take more than less to make sure they save your life. Well, the question is, what limbs in your life this week do you need to look at? What limb is the weak link in your life? See, God wants us to be strong, and he wants us to look inward and know thyself. To know him is to know yourself. To know yourself is to know her. So we have to look at God as almost like a coach, right? He's always up there coaching us. And he's rooting for us and cheering for us to succeed in life. And she's always trying to help give us encouragement. And a storm is not a bad thing. I don't believe God's a puppet master up there with strings going like this. And I know some people think that. I don't. But I also know that God is trying to give us every chance to succeed. It's our choice if we choose to succeed or not. And when we talk about amputation, there's a lot of times, I mean, I've ran some pretty large organizations, $1 billion company, publicly traded. My division alone, we were a small division. We only had like $100 million a year to contribute to the company. But still, that's a pretty large division. And, when I look back on some of those things, I remember there was an office that was just bleeding money. We were losing in that division alone like $2 or $3 million a year, every year. And I had to decide to close it. And I went there and I watched, I listened to everybody. I really paid attention to see if my salesmen, my closers, my managers, if it was them or was it my salesmen, my saleswomen, was it them? Was it our office? Was it our location? What was it? And at the end of the day, we came to the understanding, after I evaluated everything, that I had an office with people that just couldn't do the job. Now, we can keep the office open, try to bring in new blood, and we're going to think about doing that. But you want to bring in some and get rid of maybe the managers and start there, and then weed out the closers, and then you weed out the line, or do you want to just start scratch? And I just cleaned house. I just went in and got rid of everybody. And we had to start from scratch. That first year from scratch, we were plus 2 or 3 million. I think it was like 2.5. We were plus. Instead of what we lost the previous year, we made that in profit that year. And all I had to do was prune the tree back. Now, no one wants to prune the tree back because we don't want to go and fire people. We don't want to just cancel someone's career. But if what they're doing is not cutting it, I'm actually doing them an injustice, because those poor sales guys, even though they had a job, they were only making like $30,000 to $50,000. And all their other counterparts in other divisions were making $200,000, $300,000 on the low end. So by not firing them, I was doing them an injustice. I was holding them back. Who are you holding back? Why are you holding yourself back? I just started a new company, a nonprofit with a friend, and I'm all in. And what I mean by that, all money, all times, all my effort, all my brain power, all my connections, everything I got, I'm all in. I am present and there to take this entity to that next level. Okay? And when I look at our company as we build it, and I watch it, and I see how we're bringing in new people, and everything's just slowly starting to really start to take off, and I watch the signs, what I'm looking for is dead branches. I am not going to allow a dead branch to enter into this brand new entity, because I want to make sure that any tree comes in, it's pruned, it's tough, it's lean, it's mean, and it's a fighting machine. I need you, God needs you to be the same. So let's look at our lives and figure out what we need to prune back. Maybe it's our drinking. Look, there's nothing wrong with having drinks. Let's talk about it. Is it okay to drink? Absolutely. What's the first miracle Jesus ever did? The Christ. His mother asked him to turn water into wine. What a trick that must be. If any of you got that one figured out, give me a call. I'm waiting, right? I have tried it many times. Nope, it's still water. So his first miracle was turning water into wine at a celebration, at a party, so that the libations can continue. This is the Son of God, God himself, right? The Christ, turning water into wine. So, yes, it's okay to drink. Absolutely. Have a good scotch on me. Enjoy a fine Irish whiskey. Have that beer. Have that glass of wine. But is it excessive? Are you doing it every night? Is it something you have to do? I've always told people, if you are doing something because you have to do it, then you are an addict. I know a friend who has to work 5 days a week, every day, and he has to do a minimum of 10 hours a day, or else he feels like he's a loser. He is addicted to his work. Now, that can be a good thing, and it can be a bad thing, actually, because I notice he's losing ground at home. His children, his wife, he's actually separating from them, becoming more distant, because he's addicted to his work. So the guy you see down the street in the morning when you're going to get your coffee on the way to work, and you're like, yeah, I'm glad I'm not that bum. You know, the crazy guy out there, or the crazy lady, the homeless person, and they're all whacked out in their head because they did too many drugs. Well, that guy's just an addict. So are you. Maybe it's your coffee. I know a very good salesman I had for years. He worked for me. If he didn't have his coffee, the guy couldn't close the deal. His entire life was predicated on coffee. I know you say that's stupid. I agree. But he didn't. And if he didn't get a coffee, he just never sold. As long as he had coffee, he was like, yeah, I'm okay. The guy was addicted to coffee. I know other people, including myself, who used food as comfort. I found myself one day, I woke up at 450 pounds, addicted to food. So just because you're not a drug addict or an alcoholic doesn't mean you don't have things in your life that need to be trimmed back. Maybe you're eating to cover up some pain in yourself that you need to look at. Why are you overeating? Why are you over drinking? See, if you really want to have fun, you don't need to become altered. Now, I'm not saying it's not okay to become altered. If you want to have a drink and enjoy yourself with the guys and the family, enjoy yourself. But if that's what you have to do to find joy, there's a problem, okay? If you've got to get a drug to keep you going, we have a problem. If we have to have sex to keep you going, you have a problem. If you have to have a person in your life, you have a problem. One of my good friends is a dating fanatic. She's never been able to be alone. She will date anybody instead of being alone. And then she always wonders why she never has fulfilling relationships. It's because she's never taken the time to prune back herself, to figure out who she is, to take time to find out who she is by looking inward, by looking to get to know herself, and in knowing herself, knowing God. So what is it we're going to do this week is we want to look at pruning ourselves back. As this big storm has hit our state and brought all this havoc, let's embrace the havoc. Let's embrace the windstorms, and let's look at our tree limbs in our life and see what we need to prune back. Am I speaking kindness to my wife more than I need to? Probably not. You probably should speak to your spouse a little more nice, a little kinder voice. The tonality needs to change to let her know, or him know, that you care and that you do love them. I love everybody, but I don't like everybody. There's a lot of people I don't like. And sometimes the person that I don't like is right there, me. Because Paul made that famous statement of, I do the things I don't want to do, and I don't do the things I want to do. And that's a reflection of looking in thyself. And as you hear the wind right now around me, it's howling. It's literally just smashing around, and tree limbs, you can hear them cracking in the background. I think of that. What is it I want to do? I want to make sure that I, as a person, am whole. And to do that, you got to kind of surgically go in and figure out what might need to be amputated. Part of those amputations are relationships, and that's one of the things that I'm going to start with, kind of delving into, is relationships in your life. I have a friend, and I love this person, but he's very negative. And I told him, if you're going to continue to be a very negative person, I am going to be your friend, but I have to be a friend from a distance, because I can't be around people that are always negative. You know, that person who, no matter what you say to them, The sky is always falling. The glass is always half full. I love them. I love you. I'm here for you. If you want to help to get out of that kind of a mindset, let me know. I'm here for you. But if you want a friend to kind of come down to that area with you, I don't want to be around a person of a lower consciousness. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's rude. You just called me a person of a lower consciousness. Maybe that is rude. And maybe you need to hear that. Maybe the reason people don't want to be around you right now, just like there's been times in my life where friends didn't want to be around me. My consciousness, my level was so low. I mean, I was so low on the level of consciousness and being awakened to life that I was so self-centered, self-focused, all about me. I wouldn't want to be around that either. And so people in my life decades ago, they amputated that relationship. And I'm telling you, we need to look at our relationships right now this week and see what relationships we need to amputate. If they're always calling you for money, well, I've got those too. You need to think about it. Maybe there's a person you need to say, I need you and me as friends to be friends, but we got to step back a little, okay? I can't continue to allow you to take me. I'm trying to take my consciousness and my awareness and my spiritual life to a higher level. I want to go to a higher consciousness. I want to fight back, but with love and kindness. And to do that, we have to raise our conscious and take it to that higher level. But if your friends that are around you are negative Nancy's and they're always just mean people and doubters and they don't like anybody and the whole world's against them, run away from those people. They are not the kind of people you want to be around. My core people in our organization at TCI, my leadership team, they are so positive. Yet some of them battle grave depression like I do. But they will not allow that depression to hold them down. They still see the glass as half full, even on their worst days, because we train ourselves as a group to be positive as a group. And so when I feel a little sad, well, I pick up the phone and I call one of the directors at TCI on the board and I talk to them. And man, they can just cheer me up real quick and lift a burden from me. And it's funny when you have that relationship with people, all you're doing is just having a relationship and you're letting them know you want them in your life to help lift you up, to be a lid lifter, to lift the lid that right now is just sticking right down on top of you. John Maxwell is a great man. If you ever get a chance to read any book by John Maxwell, Dr. John Maxwell, the greatest book he ever wrote was called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I just finished reading that book for the 21st year. I have read it every day for 21 years, this book. And there's a chapter in there on the law of the lid. And what he says is if a leadership expert is a 10 and 0 is a guy starting out or a gal starting out, you got to get up to the 10, right? How do you do that? How do you become that Colin Powell, the Bill Gates? How do you become the, Michael Jordans? How do you become the Obamas, the Clintons, the Trumps, the Bushes, whatever your favorite political party is or your favorite superstar? I don't care what they are. Whoever they are, the one at the top, how did they get there? How did they get to that level? Well, I can tell you one thing. They were around lid lifters. So if I'm a 2 on the leadership level and I want to become a 5, I can't hang out with 2s. I need to be hanging out with 6s. Because a 6 on the leadership level of 0 to 10, a 6, he's already gotten to the level of 5. He knows what it takes. I'm down here to 2. He knows what I got to do to get to 3 and 4 and 5 because he's a 6. He got there. So I go to people and I hang out with people who are going to help lift my lid. And they're lid lifters in your life. And that's this beautiful thing about mentoring people. And that's what TCI is about. It's about community. It's about community. We're not about self-absorbed, come down and hear me talk for an hour because I'm such a great preacher or something. That is so not us. What we are is a community of people around the globe who are starting a movement, a revolution of love, of kindness. And we want to transform. We want to create an army of people who want to change the world in a positive way. But they still have their daily battles, and that's what we want you to know. And as a group, we are all here to help lift the lid for the guy right below us. And in doing so, the person above me is going, I see what you're doing. You're doing it right. Now you're about to go to the next level yourself. And that's this process of mentoring. And so how do you know how to hike up Mount Rainier? You find a guy or a gal who's hiked up Mount Rainier, and you follow their advice because they've successfully summited it. And that's all you need to do, is you need to know that God has people in your life as mentors. God is not some religious institution. He is not some evil person who screams hellfire and brimstone. If you're looking for a hell, you don't have to worry about it. You're living in it. You don't have to worry about this whole thing about the afterlife hell thing, burning and all that, where some man, sits in a lake and burns on fire for eternity. That's a bunch of BS, okay? I've crossed over 3 times. There is no lake of fire waiting for you. Here's what's waiting. Eternity in this beautiful consciousness. And there is a hell, but it's right here. You're in it. Let's see if we can't turn this hell into a little bit of heaven. I love you guys. God loves you. But for us to turn our hell into a heaven, we got to prune back some of these branches. Let's get it back right now. In the fall is when we prune. Because if you prune the trees right now, like the apple orchards that I used to take care of as a kid, those apple trees, you prune them now, right? So that in the spring, them apples are going to start growing and coming back more and stronger and more vibrant colors and taste and flavors. So the pruning back is a healthy thing. You talk about people that know the forest. If you go in and properly log the forest, you're going to get rid of a lot of the dead stuff that needs to get out of the forest, which creates less forest fires. It's called proper forest management. So let's work on proper forest management, but let's change it up and work on human management. Proper human management. And let's try to figure out how we as a group can come together, figure out where our weak branches are, support the weakness. If we have to amputate it, and let's move forward with what's strong and vibrant in us. And let's try to take the world and see if we can't change it, one person at a time. I love you guys. God loves you. You know the drill. Live positive.